Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc.
The union representing workers at Trinidad and Tobago's state-owned oil company declined the option to buy the soon-to-be-closed refinery. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Monday, September 3rd. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. No thanks. That was the response of the Oilfield Workers Trade Union, the OWTU, to the Trinidad and Tobago government, offering it the first option to acquire the refining assets of state-owned oil company Petrotrin as it closes. The offer was made by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley in a radio and television broadcast on Sunday night, during which he defended the decision to close down the century-old loss-making enterprise. He said it was the best option of all those that were explored and explained the way forward now that his government has accepted the recommendations of the Petrotrin board to shut down the oil refining operations.
The only commercially sound and viable option is to close the refinery, export Petrotrin's oil, which will be produced by an efficient and aggressive exploration program, and to import products to replace those previously supplied by the Port-au-Père refinery. This will move the company from a state of chronic money losing to one which will turn a tidy profit for the taxpayers. The refining assets of Petrotrin can now be put in a separate company for opportunity attention. The OWTU will be given the first option to own and operate it if they wish on the most favorable terms.
But the OWTU has described the offer as a ruse. In a joint press conference with other union leaders on Monday, President Ansel Roger said the announcement only confirmed the OWTU's position that the government was intent on selling the refinery to its friends. He said the union never wanted to own the refinery.
That belongs to the people, and Dr. Rowley knows quite well that the union's principal position has always been that it shall be owned by the people, operated by the people, for and the interest of the people, operated efficiently. That is the OWTU's position. And therefore, asking the union to purchase a refinery that costs billions of dollars, he knows very well that we would not do that. But his plan is to say that if you all can't buy it, we will get somebody to buy it. He has already have lined up a purchaser for the refinery.
Well, following the press conference, Roger, flanked by other trade union leaders, delivered an open letter to the office of the Prime Minister outlining the union's position on the impending Petrotrin closure. It was received by an official from the office of the Prime Minister. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Rowley has confirmed that approximately 1,700 permanent workers will be affected in Petrotrin's refining and marketing division as a result of the closure. In exploration and production, employment levels are to be reduced from 1,700 workers to approximately 800. Rowley said that in considering the various possibilities for Petrotrin's future, the effect on workers and their families was considered. And he assured that with the closure, the workers would not be walking away empty-handed.
In order to minimize the overall negative effects of this inevitable decision to get out of refining, the government will ensure that the workers who are surplus to the requirement of the renewed effort leave the company with an attractive separation package that should be well received and backed up by the assured pension payments to come. By moving to fix the company now, we are in a position to treat employees with care and concern by softening the effects of the required adjustments. The company will treat with every employee with dignity and provide services such as financial advice and employee assistance program for psychological support. Workers are expected to receive significant financial packages upon ties being severed with the company.
The OWTU and other trade unions have been gearing for a shutdown of the country on Friday as they press for the refinery's closure to be reversed, and they said the plan will go ahead. But the Prime Minister urged those working for or with Petrotrin to remain committed to operating in the best interest of all the people of the Twin Island Republic and acknowledge their obligation to the nation.
We appeal for the understanding and support of all contractors and employees, permanent, temporary or casual, at this critical time in the company's history. Unnecessary work stoppages and other contrived industrial actions are not in the nation's best interests. This will only obstruct the already embattled company and delay this irreversible and unavoidable process geared towards converting a money-losing company into a profitable enterprise for the benefit of the entire nation.
And Minister for Public Administration Marlene MacDonald also warned against any solidarity strike. In a statement on Monday, she sought to discourage citizens, particularly public service employees, from taking such action. We get more in this report from TTT.
The Minister of Public Administration is discouraging citizens from staying away from their jobs on Friday, September 7, 2018, for the Joint Trade Union Movement's Day of Rest and Reflection. JTM leader Ansel Roger has called upon citizens to engage in the exercise by staying away from work. Line Minister Marlene MacDonald is reminding public service employees that, as a rule, persons employed in the essential services are prohibited from withholding their services, whether or not in sympathy with institutions in which they are not employed. Such employees include members of the Defence Force, the public, prison, fire and teaching services, and central bank employees. Should any of these prohibited employees breach the provisions of the Industrial Relations Act, they are subject to fine and imprisonment. She said public servants who stay away from their jobs without authorization in response to irrational and irresponsible calls from certain labor leaders run the risk of being recorded as absent from work without pay.
Over in Guyana, thousands of children had no classes on the first day of the school year on Monday as teachers continued strike action to press for more pay. Parents took their children to school based on information from the Ministry of Education that there would be a contingency plan in place if the strike continued, but some were forced to take their charges back home when they were faced with empty classrooms. Instead of going to the classrooms, teachers protested in front of the Ministry of Education. The full impact of the countrywide strike is unknown, and while there were massive protests across the country, there was no final figure on the number of schools closed. The Guyana Teachers Union is pushing for a 40% salary increase in keeping with the recommendations of a presidential task force, but it has indicated it is prepared to negotiate downwards. The union says it's willing to call off the strike if the government gives teachers a percentage of the increase they're asking for. We get more in this report from Newsroom Guyana.
After braving the morning showers to get to school, many parents were forced to head back home with their children. At the new Diamond Grove Primary School on the east bank of Demerara, parents were unsure of what to do.
Well, this is the first day, and for how it's looking, it's not a nice sign because we don't know what will happen during the week. This is just the first day and nothing in order. Down to the garden lady didn't even know what's going on. She can't even give an idea what's going on. I mean, she belongs to the school. They should have given her a little information so that when parents come in, you know, she could give us a little heads up or something. Because she's already here. So we just got to go and find out.
From all indications, teachers attached to that public educational institution have decided not to work. It was a similar situation at the Peters Hall and Providence primary schools, where the head teachers showed up to advise the parents to take their kids back home. Newsroom was informed that majority of the schools in Linden Region 10 were also fully closed. These were the New Silver City Secondary School, the Christianburg Wismar Secondary, and Pine Street Nursery. Most schools in the capital were in session, as well as some schools along the east and west coast of Demerara. Over at the Diamond Secondary School, though the head teacher was on strike, many teachers stuck around to ensure the students are not affected. Teachers also turned up at the Enmore Hope Primary School, Graham's Hall Primary, Lenore Primary, and Windsor Forest Primary. Notwithstanding, the protests across the country were massive and loud. In Linden, Bartica, Port Kaituma, Mabaruma, Maruka, Berbice, and Georgetown, scores of teachers were protesting, simply demanding that the government pay them a livable wage.
And still to come in Caribbean Newsline, Parliament in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to debate marijuana legislation. Stay with us. There's more news after the break.
Women's ICC World T20 title.
Reggae singer George Nooks is at it again, and this time it is with his latest gospel track, Just in Time. The song has found a connection not just with the Jamaican audience, but onto the international scene. The single is now sitting atop the South Florida charts, followed by Wayne Marshall's Glory to God. On the New York charts, the position are reversed with Glory to God in #1 spot.
Almighty God, you never face me yet.
Dominica's World Creole Music Festival in 2018, October 26, 27, 28 at the Windsor Park Stadium in the capital city, Roseau. 3 nights, over 8 genres, 40 years of independence, 1 location, Dominica, the 20th edition of Dominica's World Creole Music Festival. For more information, like our Facebook page, Dominica Festivals. Visit our website, www.dominicafestivals.com for all travel, accommodation, and ticketing details. My love, my home, my Dominica. Building a resilient nation. See you there! Proudly sponsored by the Government of Dominica and Discover Dominica Authority.
The Parliament in St. Vincent and the Grenadines will meet on Thursday for the first reading of 3 pieces of legislation as government continues its efforts to establish a medical marijuana industry. Agriculture and Forestry Minister Saboto Caesar will table the Medicinal Cannabis Industry Bill, the Cannabis Cultivation Amnesty Bill, and the Permitted Use of Cannabis for Religious Purposes Bill. It's coming a few months after the Dr. Ralph Gonsalves administration indicated a desire to have the relevant laws passed by March. The main opposition New Democratic Party has already said that the government must ensure that any medical marijuana industry benefits citizens. Opposition leader Dr. Goodwin Friday had said it could not be a situation where multinational pharmaceutical corporations essentially come and dominate an industry that locals can benefit from. A former member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force who fled to the United States while being sought in connection with the fatal shooting of an entertainer has been charged with murder after he was deported from the United States. O'Shane Wayne Thompson has been charged for the May 7, 2017 murder of 31-year-old Kristen Pearson, known as Insta Boss. It was reported that the two got into an altercation over a woman at a dance in Port Maria. The 24-year-old former cop who fled the island in May last year was flown to Jamaica last Thursday and was arrested on arrival. An earthquake with a magnitude of 5.2 rocked sections of Jamaica's capital, Kingston, on Monday morning, but there were no immediate reports of injuries or destruction to property. The earthquake unit at the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies said the quake, which occurred at 9:35 a.m. local time, was located offshore, approximately 150 kilometers west of Negril, Westmoreland. It was reportedly felt in the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew and had a focal depth of 13 kilometers. There is no cure for HIV, but as we hear in this week's edition of Newsline Health, the experts are focusing on testing and treatment as a way to eliminate its spread.
From care to cure towards the elimination of HIV. That was the theme of an international HIV expert summit hosted by the Caribbean Cytometry and Analytical Society, CCAS, last week in St. Lucia. That theme demonstrated a shift in paradigm. CCAS chairperson Professor Clive Landis explains how the region can test, treat, and defeat HIV.
HIV has long ceased to be a death sentence. You can live very well with HIV, but the key point is that when someone is on treatment with HIV, then they also become non-infectious, because the HIV is suppressed in their body and cannot be transmitted. And guess what? The same thing happens with sexual transmission of HIV. If the person who has HIV is on treatment, then that person, he or she, cannot pass the virus on to their sexual partner. We want to say to persons in the Caribbean is that if we can test persons, and if they're HIV positive, we can treat them, together we can defeat this disease, because it cannot be transmitted anymore and it'll eventually fizzle out.
But there's something very important for that process to be successful. Attitudes towards HIV testing and treatment can either hinder or help the process. That's a message we often hear in various forms from health officials and others in discussion on fighting HIV, and it was a message that Professor Landis stressed.
If we put up barriers in our community, usually out of fear because we're so worried about this as being a death sentence, which really isn't, then persons won't feel comfortable enough to be treated or even come forward for testing. And so the whole effort will fail.
During the conference, Professor Landis pointed to successes of the Caribbean HIV response, including the validation of 7 countries and territories as having eliminated mother-to-child HIV transmission. But UNAIDS Director for Latin America and the Caribbean, Dr. Cesar Nunez, shared the latest HIV data, which show that the Caribbean must accelerate progress if it's to meet the targets that will set it on a track to end the AIDS epidemic by the year 2030. He said the AIDS response is at a precarious point in the Caribbean, and while there has been partial success in saving lives and stopping new HIV infections, the pace of progress is not matching global ambition. Dawn Paris for Newsline Health.
And ahead in Newsline Sport, Barbados Tridents slipped to their 5th straight defeat in this year's Caribbean Premier League tournament. Stay with us. Sport is next.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Stay indoors and away from windows during the storm or hurricane.
Dominica's World Creole Music Festival in 2018, October 26, 27, 28 at the Windsor Park Stadium in the capital city, Roseau. 3 nights, over 8 genres, 40 years of independence, 1 location, Dominica, the 20th edition of Dominica's World Creole Music Festival. For more information, like our Facebook page, Dominica Festivals. Visit our website, www.dominicafestivals.com for all travel, accommodation, and ticketing details. My love, my home, my Dominica, building a resilient nation. See you there! Proudly sponsored by the Government of Dominica and Discover Dominica Authority.
This month on Caribbean Passport, we check out the launch of the Barbados Food and Rum Festival, stop off in Antigua and Barbuda for their annual showcase, fall in love with the Caribbean aesthetic at Levy, and so much more. See it all right here on this station.
The St. Lucia Stars ensured the Barbados Tridents would remain winless at home in this year's Hero Caribbean Premier League by trouncing them by 6 wickets at Kensington Oval on Sunday. Once again, it was the Tridents' batting that let them down, as they could only muster 135 for 7 of their 20 overs after being sent in to bat. No batsman from the Tridents had a meaningful impact on the game, with Hashim Amla's top score of 35 of 34 balls, highlighting those struggles.
Aims in at the off stump.
Easy catch to Pollard, and Obed McCoy strikes again. He has got wonderful changes and change-ups.
Well, the slower ball that he's got at the moment is working beautifully. Has gone for 6. It's 107 for 6.
Lamont, oh my goodness, he's held on to it. But for a while there, I wondered as he was staggering left and right whether he had lost it in the sun. Well played. Oh, well adjusted, beautifully played by Imran.
Cornwall was never, ever stopping that.
He's nailed that. Nailed it beautifully. Sunshine snatch, power shot, adored by Odain Smith at backward square leg. 2 bad balls from Kesrick Williams in this over. Really bad deliveries to close this innings out. Still a half-decent effort with the ball on a difficult surface from the St. Lucia Stars. But 13 coming off that last over. And Imran Khan finishing on 12 from just 6 deliveries, 135 for 7 for the Tridents to try to keep themselves in contention.
The Stars, which have also endured a miserable season, made sure to end their regular season on a winning note, easily surpassing the target to reach 136 for 4 in 17.3 overs.
Pollard has replaced Chandapal Hemraj, second leading run scorer this year. He was down the track and finger goes up. He's a long way down the track, but 2 and 2 for Jason Holder.
He's gone for a first ball duck in controversial circumstances. Well, may that graphic cry its eyes out. That's a bad ball, and it'll be 4.
Open the face nicely there, and it's going to challenge third man, and third man's done well.
He goes over third man, and we'll get 4. Top edge down to Ashley Nurse, who drops it and punches it over the bar for 6. That really just sums up Jason Holder and the Tridents, particularly on this home trip. Down the ground, and that will be 4. And that will be the end of the contest. Another disappointing match for the Barbados Tridents. They go 0-5 here at Kensington Oval this season. And the Stars sign off with a win.
It was the Tridents' fourth straight loss in front of their home fans and their sixth in 8 matches. It leaves them firmly rooted at the bottom of the table on just 4 points. Meanwhile, rain coupled with dashing knocks from Rassie van der Dusen and Captain Chris Gale powered St. Kitts and Nevis to a 7-wicket victory over Jamaica Talawas Sunday night and into the playoffs of the CPL. Despite being ahead on run rate, Patriots were facing a tall order of overhauling 207 when the Rains intervened in the 7th over at Warner Park with the score on 65 for 1. When the match resumed, the hosts were handed a revised target of 118 from a further 27 balls, and Van der Dusen 45 not out, Gale 41, and then Mamadullah with an unbeaten 28 from 11 balls easily put them over the line with 5 balls remaining. The victory put Patriots on 9 points, securing the last playoff spot and joining reigning champions Trinbago Knight Riders, Guyana Amazon Warriors and Talawas in the Final 4. And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc.
Coming to New Jersey, the official national soccer team of Jamaica will face the national team of Ecuador. September 7th, 8 p.m. at the Red Bull Arena. Jamaica versus Ecuador with all their stars. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com or at the stadium and at a Delgado travel agency near you. Free admission for children under 10. Restrictions apply. Jamaica versus Ecuador. Brought to you by SPD Sports. Don't miss this exciting match.
Again, the major developments of this day, the Oil Field Workers Trade Union declined the offer to purchase the refining assets of the state-owned oil company Petrotrin as it closes. And in sport, Barbados Tridents slipped to their 5th straight defeat in this year's Caribbean Premier League tournament, while Jamaica Talawas secure their spot in the playoffs. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CarnaNews.com. For more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and subscribe to CaribVision's YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and do have yourselves a good night.